Well, a TIF is a great tool for development for a village like River Forest, and certainly the opportunity of being able to take an area that is either underdeveloped or needs to change from the development that it has currently had. So a TIF is an opportunity to collect taxes and bypass not having those taxes go to the other governmental bodies. It freezes the tax level and accumulates in a fund. And then that fund can actually be used for any development purposes within that district that's been designed. So we have two TIFs in River Forest. One is a sales tax TIF and one is development TIF. Both of them run along Lake Street from Harlem Avenue to Thatcher. So the idea is to use the TIF. Certainly the TIF was utilized in the development of the town center, and the idea is to use the TIF along Lake Street for development purposes. So the only problem that I see right now is that many of the residents don't know we have a TIF, and most all residents don't know that we have just about $6 million sitting in that TIF fund. And the TIF fund is going to expire. So at the end of 2009 into 2010, the TIF expires, and in 2011, all the properties will go back on the tax rolls, and that money will then have to be spent. And if it's not spent on something or given back to taxing authorities, which will certainly then reduce people's taxes. Right now, there is no plan for the TIF. The TIF has not been, I've gone through the minutes of the village meetings from 2002 up until now. And there's only been a handful of discussion items that have appeared on the TIF subject. A handful, most of those have been on, well, these are TIF items. These are items that the TIF is going to pay for. Most recently, there's been discussions, a lot of questions coming forth from some of the trustees on, please explain the TIF, what is the balance of the TIF, and how is the TIF going to be used, what are the plans for it. And to this point, that has not come forth, and I've not seen any effort being brought forth on the village meetings from the standpoint of how that TIF is going to be spent. But there are certainly most definitely plans. I'm aware of several that are being discussed in the background. But from a transparency perspective, this is what I'm talking about earlier, is we need to be informing the residents of not only the TIF exists, we need to inform the residents of what the balance of that TIF is, and we need to inform residents what the plan is going to be going forward with spending that money. There's a meeting that takes place annually, and for all the taxing bodies that are a part of the TIF are required to be invited. So as president of the Park District, I've attended the last 2 years. And at that meeting, the taxing bodies are given a report of the expenditures as well as the revenue and the report that's actually filed with the state. To my knowledge, that report has never been discussed at the village board level, nor is it on the village website. In fact, if you go to the village website, if you hunt around, it's not easy to find, but if you hunt around, you'll find out there is some information about the TIF, not on what the TIF is, just on some of the expenditures of the TIF. But from a transparency perspective, it's not to the detail of this report, nor is it information that's being shared at the board level. To my knowledge, there is not a plan that's been discussed at the board level of what is going to be done with the TIF and the expenditures of the $6 million. To me, that's not only a lack of transparency to the board, but it's certainly a lack of transparency to the residents and taxpayers of River Forest.